sports fans, this is Robert with WTP Sports Dudes here live on this Saturday morning. Super excited to talk some ACC Football Conference preseason rankings. We're going to rank all 17 of their teams and put them in the order in which we think they are the best in that conference. I'm excited to be here this morning. I got SEC Sean with me here, repping them Texas A&M Aggies. How you feeling this morning, SEC Sean?
Good. Glad to get into some of this. I mean, we know, what is it? College football is less than 45, 46 days away. So it's time to ramp this stuff up and get these things done and give the fans what they want to know. ACC was tough for me, but we'll get into that in a little bit. So great to be here and see what we got.
If you're out there joining us, make sure you hit that like button. Make sure you subscribe. All of our channels are going across the bottom. If you get an opportunity, go and check out SEC Sean's NASCAR talks that he has on his channel, NASCAR for Beginners. He gives you all sorts of updates on NASCAR. Go check out his channel at SEC Sean. Let me bring in our man Post Game, who did a phenomenal video yesterday about Notre Dame. He has a bunch of videos on his channel, so please go check out Post Game Sports and check out what he has on his channel, because he has some unbelievable content about those Notre Dame Fighting Irish. And let's bring our man in, Post Game of Post Game Sports. How you feeling this morning?
Man, I feel great, and I'm happy to be on with you two gentlemen this morning. I'm excited to talk about the ACC Notre Dame football side chick.
Yeah, Notre Dame's football side chick for sure. Let's go ahead and jump right into it. We all compiled our rankings, and we came up with Boston College at number 17. At the bottom of the conference this year. What do y'all think about Boston College? And do you think maybe they can get out of the basement? Let's start with you, SEC Sean.
I mean, the bottom of the ACC, I believe, is going to be, I hate to say wide open, but wide open. I mean, you could have put numerous teams probably down here. But Boston College is one of those sneaky teams that will jump up and bite somebody they shouldn't. So I think Boston College is going to struggle mightily this year, but I'm not going to be surprised, if they beat, a Clemson or somebody like that if it's on the road. So I'm just not real high on Boston College. I just think they're going to have a really, really, really long year this year.
What about you as Post Game?
Yeah, I definitely agree with SEC Sean on that. I believe Boston College is going to be at the bottom of the barrel when you talk about the ACC conference. They lost a few key players, and I think they lost a couple coordinators as well, or a couple coordinators were replaced. They do have an interesting running back in Evan Dickens, a transfer from Liberty and Georgia Tech. He had over 1,000 yards last season and 16 touchdowns. So if they do anything, it's going to be on his legs. I have Boston College at the bottom of the ACC standings this season, though. I don't expect much.
Yeah, I don't expect much from them either. I'm hoping that they can continue to maybe get some of those players who got some experience from the Group of Five schools and continue to build their roster. But they have one player on their team that I'm going to be watching really, really closely. And I might even go to the game when they play in Cincinnati, which is about an hour and a half drive from me here in Columbus. Is Tyree Green, who's playing safety for Boston College. He was a student that I had in elementary school. I followed his whole entire football career from Little League on to high school at Reynoldsburg. He'll be in his sophomore season there at Boston College. And I'm hoping that he has a phenomenal season and he does something special for his father and transfers or gets the opportunity to transfer to the Florida State Seminoles, where his dad really loves that football team. And I hope that he can do that and have a successful season, because I know he would love to please his dad and transfer to Florida State if he has that kind of season, especially staying in the ACC. At number 16, let's talk about the McGregor. McGregor is no longer at Boston College. Is that what you're saying post game?
No, I think he's talking about the MMA fighter.
Oh, the MMA fighter. Oh, okay. Yeah. We're talking football right now. We're talking about the ACC Conference. Straggy, why? At number 16, we have Stanford. What has been the issue with Stanford? Why have they fallen off? Is it because they're more focused on academics, or is it just they're not getting the kind of players that they would normally get simply because of NIL? Let's start with you, post game.
Yeah, I think Stanford is definitely an academic institution, but they've had some really great seasons when it comes to college football. I think Andrew Luck is the man for the job to rebuild that program. Unfortunately, it will not be this season. I have Stanford at the bottom of the barrel. When you talk about the ACC standings, they just don't have the type of players that they used to. They don't have a Christian McCaffrey. They don't have an Andrew Luck. Players like that were impact players who can take over games. Stanford is voided at this season, and in my opinion, they'll be at the bottom of the barrel once more.
Yeah, that's valid. I do agree with you. Andrew Luck, I think, is the man for the job to get that turned, but it's going to take some time, and it's going to take time, but it's also going to take a renewed interest from the administration out there. Stanford has had some really good seasons. I did have them at the bottom of the barrel also. This is a team, and y'all know coming into the season, I've been pretty high on Hawaii out of the group of five. Hawaii beat Stanford last year. That used to never happen. When Hawaii'd come over to Stanford or somewhere like that, they would always just get beat, and they beat up on the teams they should beat up on. But to come in and beat a Stanford, it just tells you Stanford's down right now, and it's going to take a little bit of time. The big problem is I'm not sure they have the money funneling in that some of the other programs do, like especially the programs out near them in California, the UCLAs, the USCs, even throw in the West Coast, Oregon, Washington. They don't have the money to match those kind of teams, and I think that's hurting them when it comes to recruiting.
Yeah, for Stanford, I really feel like they're having a big issue, especially like Liam said, they're not in the Pac-12 anymore, where they were regional and they could battle some teams in that division or in that conference for players, and they could keep some guys out there. Plus, they're not funneling in a whole lot of money into the football program. And then when you think about it, you got a lot of players that are out there who are really, really academically driven, but are really good athletes. And they're choosing to go to places, like he said earlier, Notre Dame and Vanderbilt, simply because of the level of competition. You know that those two schools are going to play. Even though Notre Dame is independent, they're playing huge brands every year. And in terms of Vanderbilt, they're in the SEC. They're playing huge brands every year. And I think that's starting to hurt Stanford. Plus, if you're going on the East Coast, you're not playing those big brands all the time. You might get a Florida State, you might get a Miami, you might get a Clemson, but the rest of them aren't that inviting, aren't that interesting for players that want to go to Stanford and face those teams like you face somebody in the SEC or the way Notre Dame scheduling is. So I think that's hurting Stanford right now. But hopefully they can get that thing fixed, because I would love to see them back on the map and being able to get the O-line presence that they used to get. But I will say this for Stanford. They do produce enough players that after 2 years or so, they end up going to one of those other major Power 4 schools and end up getting into that NFL draft, though. We seen that last year with David Bailey, who was the edge rusher who ended up going to Texas Tech. And we saw where he ended up at number 2 in the NFL draft. So I think that they can be good. Let's talk about North Carolina, and we'll start with you, SEC Sean. They came in at number 15 for us. What's your thoughts on North Carolina, and will Bill Belichick ever get this program turned around?
That's exactly why I have them down here. I thought Bill Belichick was amazing in the NFL. Let's not even try to cross the two paths. They're totally different entities. I just don't think Bill Belichick's made out for that college. The way it works, all the recruiting trips and everything like that. In the pros, he didn't have to go travel to recruit. He had general managers, and I know every school has a general manager. Don't discount that, but I just think North Carolina is, I hate to say, but we always hear it when coach talk, is a stepping stone. Kids go there, get some training, get some, agility, learn the system, learn how college works, and then bam, they're gone somewhere else. For an example, they had a good defensive lineman last year, C.J. Mims. He up and transferred to Texas A&M this year. So I think North Carolina is becoming more of what North Carolina used to be in football, kind of that low end, middle of the pack type team that is is where kids go to transfer. They go there to train and learn and go.
Yeah, how about you post game?
Yeah, NC. I mean, I would like to believe that Bill Belichick can turn it around and have North Carolina players in the ACC conference. I just don't have a lot of faith. I used to believe, and SEC Sean made a great point about Bill Belichick and how the NFL and college is two different things. But I used to believe that all of the New England Patriots' success was due to Bill Belichick. Then I realized what Bill did before Tom Brady and after Tom Brady. He wasn't the best. You wouldn't consider him the best coach if you look at the results after and prior to Tom Brady. I still think he's a great defensive mind and a great leader of men. I just don't think they have enough to compete. I mean, he fired his offensive coordinator. They turned the quarterback position over to Billy Edwards Jr. A lot of offensive linemen in the transfer portal, went to the transfer portal to try to rebuild that defense. I don't have a lot of faith in North Carolina, but I do think that they could be better than they were last year in the ACC.
Yeah, for me, North Carolina is a school that I think that they're just not benefiting football wise from being in the ACC. I think that's why they're one of the schools that wanted to sue the ACC to try to get out of that contract, to try to get out of that conference, because I think they understand that if they could possibly get into the Big Ten or they could possibly get into the SEC at some point, especially if they have some super conferences, that they'll have an opportunity to get some really good football players. Because if you look across the landscape of college football, they have a lot of players that are good that have transferred to other places to play after their sophomore years. And I think that if Bill Belichick can just get in a conference where he could draw some more attention, especially in the state of North Carolina, and you're touching South Carolina, you can get some of those players. He will be better off. And they also got to start spending some of that money. I mean, you can't have a Jordan Brand and he not be willing to help them out a bit. So I hope that eventually Bill Belichick can get that thing turned around and he can get some players to buy into that program. But I think being in the ACC conference might be hurting UNC. At 14,
real quick, Rob, before we move to the next, But before we move to the next team, can I noticed Liam said, how can a Jordan brand not funnel money into it? You got to remember, Jordan also owns 2311 Racing and NASCAR, which is $40 million for each car, and there's 3 cars there. That's $120 million a year. Yeah. So don't forget about that aspect of it. That Jordan, I'm sure, is donating some money, but Michael Jordan's a lot of his money is going over to the other sport. So,
yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that point. At 14, we came in with Duke. Duke was the eventual ACC champion last year. They won the ACC conference in that title game, and they were 8-5. What's y'all's thoughts on this Duke team? And they lost their starting quarterback, Darian Mensah, through some controversy or whatever to Miami. What's y'all's thoughts on this team? And will they have some players on that team that we know will be standout players and probably will get plucked and end up at another school next year? We're going to start off with you post-game.
Yeah, Duke would have been probably in the top 2 or 3 if Darian Mensah was to remain with the team, but we all know he left for Miami. I just don't see – I think they'll be solid. And but I don't think they have the upside to win the ACC like they did last year. I do really like their running back and Nate Shepard. I think he's a guy who came on a lot last year at the latter part of the season. He can still have some success. They bring back a lot of players. So this might be a team you don't be wanting to play in the latter part of the year. You may get upset. A team like that can upset a few of the teams vying for a college football spot or the ACC championship. But outside of that, I don't think Manny Diaz is going to have this team competing for the ACC crown again.
Yeah, spot on. You lose a quarterback like Mensah, and let's be honest. I mean, Shepard, great running back, but Darian Mensah led them to that ACC title. Who's going to be their quarterback? We're hearing all this talk about quarterback battles, Tennessee and all these other places. What about Duke? Nobody's mentioning anything. I don't want to say they don't have a Darian Mensah on the roster, but I don't think they have a Darian Mensah on the roster. You said it prime post. You don't want to play them later in the year. Look what Duke did last year. Look how terrible they were at the beginning of the year, and look where they ended up. They're going to get better. If you're one of the upper echelon teams, say the top 8 teams in the ACC, you don't want to play them come October, end of October, November-ish, because they're going to put up points. We know that. They may not be able to stop many people, but they can win shootouts. Especially if their quarterback develops. So I just don't have trust that they have a good enough quarterback on the roster to replace what they lost. So that's why I have them so low.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Real quick, if I can, Rob. Another thing is that secondary was getting barbecued last season. So it'd be interesting to see if they can tighten up those leaks, because if not, it's going to be a long season.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that post game, because I was going to talk about that as well. And I feel like Manny Diaz, being a defensive-minded coach and being the head coach of this Duke team, I think defensively they're going to be a bit better than where they were last year. And I know we got them coming in at 14, but when we mention these next 4 or 5 teams, I think that they could be ahead of them at the end of the season, because of the fact that I think that Manny Diaz will have a better defense. And I think when you have a guy like Shepard and you have a tight end like Jeremiah Hasley, guys who can be outlets for your quarterback early in the season, who can make some plays, can really help that offense early in the season to get better and better and better. And like you said, SEC Sean, when it comes October, once they start to play better football and they start to gel, they can scare some teams down the stretch, because they're going to eventually be able to score points, and you're going to have to stop them from scoring all of those points. Now, of course, they don't have Mensah, but I think that eventually their quarterback that will be the eventual starter will start to catch on, and offensively he'll do better down the stretch. So I would really be interesting to see what they look like later on in the season, especially that last half of their schedule, to see who they're going to be playing and see how well they have a possibility of being. At 14, we got Wake Forest. And this Wake Forest team, every year they upset somebody. We got them in at 13, and they're one of those teams that I just mentioned that maybe Duke will be better than at the end of the season. But what's your thoughts on Wake Forest? We'll start with you, SEC Sean, and then go to post game. What's your thoughts on Wake Forest?
This is where I started struggling with these rankings, was where right around this range. I think Wake Forest is going to have a pretty good defense. I just don't know what that offense is going to do. They lost some players on offense. I believe, didn't they? I believe, if I'm not mistaken, one of their receivers went to Texas, maybe, or a lineman or something went. I know somebody from Wake Forest went to Texas. I don't follow the University of Texas too often, but I honestly, I think, you saw Wake Forest. They like to keep the game sloppy. They're the ACC Iowa is what they are. They want to just play defense, control the clock, control the ball, and kick a field goal to win the game. That's what I get from Wake Forest. I just don't know how sustainable that is when you get into looking at their schedule and some of the teams they've got to play that have prolific offenses. I don't know that defense can hold up for that many games. So that's why I rank them down this low.
I also had Wake Forest ranked low in our ACC standings for the upcoming season. Listen, they lost some pretty good players in the transfer portal. Some guys went on to greener pastures. I don't think this season Wake Forest will have the ability to kind of sneak up on teams. I think teams will know, we playing Wake Forest, we got to play or they can upset us. So I don't think they will have that on their side this season where they can sneak up on teams and cause some big upsets. And factor that with the players that they lost in the transfer portal. They bring back some guys. I just don't think Wake Forest is that team this season.
Yeah, Wake Forest, I visited there a couple of months ago when I was in Greensboro, North Carolina, a little short drive right over there to their campus, and dropped a video on Melvin Sinai, who transferred to Texas, the offensive right tackle, and then Sterling Bocarter, the wide receiver, who will definitely be in the circle of trust for Texas. So losing those two key players is really going to hurt Wake Forest. But the thing that excites me about Wake Forest possibly getting an upset or two, if you got to go on the road there at night inside that stadium is really compact, and it is inside of a community where if Wake Forest wants to have a sold-out crowd, they can have it very easily because it sits right in the middle of a community where people can actually walk to that game and fill those stadiums. They fill that stadium up. So I think at any given time, if you have to travel to them, especially at night, and those fans pack that thing, they could possibly pull an upset over somebody who we might have ranked ahead of them a few steps. So I don't think Wake Forest is going to be any good, but I hope that they can at least be bowl eligible. I think eventually they're going to be one of those teams in the ACC that is just going to be one of those teams that's going to be a feeder school for some of the upper echelon Power 4 schools, that like we see many of their players getting plucked right now, especially the ones that have NFL talent. At number 12, we came in with Syracuse. Syracuse pulled up a huge upset a few years ago over Miami. They had another huge upset last year over Clemson. Maybe we don't see that as an upset now because of how Clemson ended the season. But what's your thoughts on Syracuse? We're going to start with you post game. And come this November, going to the Carrier Dome, can they pull up another upset?
Yeah, I kind of like Syracuse, Rob. I do. I think I had them a little bit higher than our WTP rankings, but I mean, I just Steve Angeli is a baller. Like if he didn't get injured last year, I think he got injured after the third or fourth game of the season and returned for the last game of the season. But if he didn't get injured last year, I think Syracuse would have finished way better than what they did. I like the pieces, the wide receivers they got surrounding Steve Angeli. Can that offensive line hold up when they play the upper echelon teams in the country and in the ACC conference? And that defense, oh my goodness, it is so pitiful. Hopefully, Coach Brown could get that defense together to at least where it's average, because that, man, they were getting Swiss cheesed up so much last year, it wasn't even funny. But the saving grace is Steve Angeli. I think he's going to be a baller, and I definitely think he's going to be drafted somewhere in the middle rounds when you talk about the NFL draft next season.
Yeah, post. I hate following you on some teams because you got my thunder, but I get it. Angeli is the key. We know this, man, but they better protect that guy because that's their team. That's if he goes down, you saw what happened to Syracuse last year. The defense, spot on. I'm not sure that defense could cover anybody in a phone booth last year. It was bad. But again, they were on the field a lot because once Angeli went down, once he went down, their offense couldn't move the ball. So that defense was on the field all game long. So hopefully with him back, that'll give a little more continuity and give the defense more of a rest. Not saying the defense was great when he was playing either, but at least they got a break. So we're going to see. Syracuse is a crazy team to watch. They're going to get somebody. They're going to get a couple of somebodies, especially if they get them up there in that dome. That place can get nasty. We'll see how that plays out. I'd have to look up their schedule to see who they get at home and who they get on the road. But yeah, Syracuse is a wild card in this ACC to me.
Yeah, I don't expect their defense to be as bad as it was last year, but I don't expect it to be a whole lot better either. But I think what can help them is if Angeli and that offense can sort of control the clock a little bit better than what they did last year. We know that he can really spin that ball. If they can just somehow couple that with a really nice running game, and they've always had good running backs in the history of Syracuse. So if they can play a little bit more ball control offense to help that defense to not be on the field as much, I think they have a chance of really upsetting somebody in the ACC. I know that we got them at number 12, but they could possibly finish inside the top 10 when it's all said and done, in my opinion. So I'm hoping that I like their coaching staff. I think that if they can just protect Angeli, run the ball a little bit better, and play a little bit better defense, they could possibly be in the top 10 when this conference season ends. So hopefully Syracuse can make that happen, and they definitely got to get us at least one upset. They got us spoiled right now. At number 11, we came in with the Cal Bears, and I wanted to put the whole word out there, California, but I don't think people wanted to see that. I think they wanted to see Cal because nobody saying the California Bears. What's your thoughts on Cal? And we're going to start with you, SEC Sean. A couple of years ago, they had Miami on the ropes, and the controversy happened, and it went the way it went. What's your thoughts on Cal?
Yeah, Cal is. I'm a little bit higher on Cal than Stanford, even though they're both kind of that same. I think Cal has a little more talent. Their quarterback, I really like this quarterback. I'm not even going to try his name. We're just going to call him JKS. That's all we're going to do. I like the quarterback. I need to see. Cal's big problem that I noticed was last year, whenever they had to travel to the East to play somebody, they struggled mightily with the travel. You could tell. But if they got you out on the West Coast, they were good. They were right there. So I need to see what Cal can do. They got to figure out how to do this travel arrangements to make it easier on these players, because I just think going from the West to the East, they seriously struggled last year. But Cal is a team, when you've got a quarterback, as long as the game's close, you have a chance if you have a solid quarterback. Somebody needs to step up at receiver. Somebody has got to take the reins there to have this team do what they need to do. So that's my only issue with them, is who's going to be their playmakers outside of the quarterback.
Yeah, man, it's the California and Stanford are in the ACC conference. Welcome to 2026. But I'm with SEC Sean on this. I think JKS, because I'm damn sure not gonna butcher his name today. But so JKS is a gamer. I actually like the receivers they have at Cal. I think they have a plethora of playmakers at the wide receiver position. Who's going to step up and be that main guy? That's the question. But I think as a collective, they have the talent at the wide receiver position to get the job done. Their coach, defensive-minded, Josh Lapui, if I'm not butchering that, but he's definitely a defensive-minded coach. I think teams are going to, like SEC Sean just mentioned, I think teams are going to travel out to Cal and then enter the Heartbreak Hotel, because I think they're definitely going to upset some teams this season. The travel is definitely one of the things that I factor in when I pick, wins and losses through the season. And when California travels, they definitely have an issue with getting W's. So we'll see if the new coach can turn that around and have Cal players in the ACC conference.
This Cal is always interesting to me because they always have some really good talent on their team, and they always have players who overachieve. And I feel like Cal is one of those teams that, when they're at home, we all know that they can give you some trouble. But of course, when they got to go on the road, especially when they got to go to the East Coast, they don't fare so well. I think that the quarterback that they have, they're going to be able to put up some numbers. And then I think defensively, having a defensive-minded coach, they will be able to slow some teams down a little bit better than what they did last year. Hopefully they can prep a little bit better on those road trips than what they have in the past, so that they can be better prepared for that long trip across the country. I think right where we got them at, right around 11, is probably where they're going to finish the season as well. I just hope that they could get somebody at the crib this year and really have a thriller, because I think anytime anyone travels to their stadium, regardless of how good they are, Cal always give them a good contest. And I like watching Cal, especially when they had that late game, being able to catch them play. At number 10, we came in with our man Mossberg's Florida State Seminoles. We're not sure what Florida State is going to be. They had 2 straight down years after going undefeated almost undefeated. They lost their bowl game. We're going to start with you post-game. What's your thoughts on Florida State, and will they get this thing turned around and end up finishing in the top 5 in this conference?
This is probably Florida State got to be the most, maybe with Clemson, along with Clemson, most interesting team in college football, because you just don't know what you're going to get. Level Up Sports 10, we talking about your team. You should be up here cooking, my brother. But Ashton Daniels, or not Ashton Daniels, or yeah, Ashton Daniels, the quarterback transfer, a lot is going to be on his shoulders this season. They got one of the premier wide receivers in all of college football, and I'm excited to see him play. I think Deuce Robinson is a dude transferring from USC, coming to Florida State, putting up those type of numbers, and I think he's going to be a monster again this season. But can they find that running game? Can that running game, set up that play action and get them in some favorable matches downfields? That be the wide receivers. That defense got to stop somebody. It wasn't very long ago. Florida State was one of the elite teams in college football. So can their head coach get them back on track? It's going to be interesting to see. A very interesting watch in college football is the Florida State Seminoles. I'm gonna be glued to the TV when they play because I'm interested to see what they got. This is an interesting team. We don't know what the heck Florida State is gonna do this season, but I'm definitely watching.
Yeah, I mean, we know Deuce Robinson. He's going to get his. We know that. Got to get the running game going for sure. I expect the defense is going to get a little better. I'm really, really curious. This will be one year I really pay attention to Florida State. I want to watch the kid that transferred from A&M out there, Ryland Kennedy. I was watching some games from A&M's last year, and when that kid got in the game, he was making differences. He was making plays. So I'm real curious to see what he's going to do out there at Florida State. We're going to find out about Florida State pretty early, I think. I'm looking through their schedule. I've got their schedule pulled up. I mean, week 2, they host SMU. Mm-hmm. And then they turn around in week 3 and go to Bama. Now, we know they beat Alabama last year. But, man, their schedule is not easy. You're talking they go then Virginia, Louisville, Miami, back to Louisville, Miami, and Virginia back-to-back. And then they've got Clemson, Boston College, Pitt, NC State, and then Florida, of course. And we don't know what Florida's going to be either. But their schedule's not easy to navigate. Now, Florida State is one of the teams a few years ago. You're right. You could just pencil them in. 10 years ago, you'd pencil, okay, well, we're going to put Florida State in the playoff. They're already there. They're not there right now. They need to have a good season, or else I believe they're going to be looking for a head coach. If they have another struggle, I believe that head coach is going to be gone. So we're going to see what they come up with. But that's where I'm at with Florida State, kind of where I have middle of the pack.
Man, I was just about to have so many wonderful things to say about Florida State and the SEC show. You throw that schedule out there, and I'm like, wow, they about to be 4-8. No, listen, that schedule was brutal, bro. I'm telling you right now, Florida State, you're going to have a really good tandem at running back. If you can use those guys and you can make sure that you have opportunities to get Deuce Robinson that ball, you can be in good shape. The defense has got to show up. They got some renowned coaches on that coaching staff. If they're going to be anything in the 2026 season, those coaches have got to be able to coach those players up. They got to go out there and be able to control the clock, control the tempo of the game, and play really, really good defense and really improve on their special teams, because we all know that third phase of the game can be critical. And if Florida State can improve in those areas, man, I think that they could possibly finish in the top 6 or 7. Right now, we got them at number 12. At number 10, but, man, they could possibly get up there. But that schedule is going to be rough, man. But I think that they can navigate it. I think that they can get them things going in the right direction. We have to wait and see. But Florida State, you got your work cut out for you to not get your coach fired by midseason. At number 9, we're rolling in with Virginia. Virginia was a really, really special team last year that we really felt like should have won the ACC after everything was all said and done and they were in the championship game, but they ended up losing to Duke. What's your thoughts on this Virginia team? And we're going to start with you, SEC, Sean.
This is one you and I kind of talked before we went live that I was really curious. I'm low on Virginia. I had them low, and you and Post game both had them higher. So I'm really curious as to what y'all see from Virginia that I'm missing. I'm obviously missing something. I just don't have a lot of faith in Virginia this year with losing their quarterback. I don't see any possible outlet for Virginia to be in the top half of the ACC. Again, if I'm missing something, I know you two will point it out and make it clear to me to something to watch for. But I just don't see it. I see Virginia. I mean, I see Virginia down there with the Duke, North Carolinas of the ACC this year. And I'm going to look up their schedule while y'all are going through this and kind of see what maybe I'm missing. So I'll defer to y'all on Virginia right now.
Well, I don't think they have the toughest schedule. I definitely don't think they have the toughest schedule. And I like the rushing attack. I like the running back from Tennessee they were able to get. I like the running backs they bring back from last year. Pabula is going to be the wild card for Virginia this year in the ACC. If he balls out, they're definitely going to have a chance. They bring back a lot of starters on offense and defense from that team last year that was ranked high the majority of the season. So I think Virginia really has a great chance to compete in the ACC. But I do agree with you, SEC Sean. This could be one of those teams that totally flip from the success they had last year and be at the bottom of the barrel in the ACC. But I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt to start the season.
Yeah, I had them a little bit better than what maybe you had them, SEC, Sean, simply because I don't really have a whole lot of faith in the rest of these ACC teams. I think it's a pretty, really just a top-heavy conference when you look at the top 4 teams that we're going to have on our list, and then it's everybody else. I just don't feel like it's a whole lot of competition in there, and any given Sunday you can make a run. Saturday you can make a run. And Virginia is just one of those teams that bringing back, like Postgame said, some veteran players on both sides of the ball. They're going to get a quarterback in Pabula to transfer from Missouri. That's going to be really nice. I like their running back. We've seen how he ran last year. I feel like this Virginia team could actually be better than what we got in place, but they can actually fall as well. So we just have to wait and see how this thing plays out. At number 8, we got the Pitt Panthers. What is your thought on Pitt? Pitt was one of those teams last year that we felt like had an opportunity to make some noise at the latter part of the season, and then they ran into Notre Dame and got freaking slaughtered. What's your thoughts on Pitt? And we're going to start with you, SEC Sean. Post game.
Man, fellas, the ACC conference got to be the toughest conference to predict. Man, you just it's so many different teams, and the way it went last season, I just a team like Pittsburgh, a team like Virginia, Florida State, you just have zero clue about what they're going to do. Now, this Pittsburgh team, they bring back their quarterback. I expect their quarterback to make strides and be even better. But they lost so many key players in the transfer portal. The linebacker goes to Texas. The defensive tackle, Francis Brew, goes to Notre Dame. A lot of players just gone. I think anytime you got a young quarterback and you're expecting that leap, I think your team can have a chance. But at linebacker and the defensive line, man, they lost a lot. Still got some talented players at Pitt. I'm not a fan of their head coach. Of course, he's a Notre Dame hater. But I would think, I think we got them right at a good spot at 8th. But I can also see them being top 5.
Yeah. The ACC is by far, to me, the hardest conference to predict. But I had Pitt a little higher probably than most, and it's kind of what postgame just said. You could have slotted any of the teams from, say, 12th to probably 5th, and you could have pulled names out of a hat and had just as good of a shot of ranking them. But you look at Pitt's schedule real quick. Pitt got a pretty favorable schedule. They've got Syracuse. They do have Virginia Tech. They got North Carolina, Boston College. They got Miami, Georgia Tech, Florida State, Louisville, and Cal. So based on our rankings, they're playing the majority of the teams that are below them in our rankings. So plus they dodged Notre Dame this year, which is always a plus for their record. So I like the quarterback from Pitt. I think that guy is going to make massive strides, and that's where I have them a little bit higher. The loss of Biles hurts for sure, but I think they'll be good enough to be about where we've got them, anywhere from, like I said, 12th to 5th. It wouldn't surprise me to see Pitt sitting there coming down to the end of the season with a chance to maybe make the ACC championship game. This conference is so crazy.
Yeah, I don't have anything to add for Pitt. Let's go go to number 8, and number 7. Let's go to NC State, and we're going to start with you, SEC Sean. What's your thoughts on NC State? We know that they are a team that we thought would be a lot better last year. Will they be a lot better this year?
I don't think they'll be a lot better. Again, this is another one of those middle-of-the-road teams. They've got their quarterback back. They lost some guys to the transfer portal, we know. I think their quarterback can be really electric, though. Ace Bailey. I believe his first name's Ace, isn't it? I know it's Bailey, but I'm pretty sure it's Ace Bailey. I could be, CJ. But I know it's Bailey. CJ. Ace sounds better to me, I guess. I don't know. CJ Bailey. So I think he's got a chance to be a really, really, really good quarterback over there. But you did lose some key players to the portal, so we're going to see how that rebuilds. This is another team I was really interested to get to, just based on how we ranked them. I'm just not quite as sold on them to see what they can do defensively.
Yeah, I like this NC State team. I believe in CJ Bailey. I think he's going to have a fantastic season. But the real reason I like NC State is because of their schedule, fellas. I think NC State could be the kind of team this year who's flirting with a playoff bid because their schedule is on paper, it looks soft. They start the season with Virginia, Richmond, Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt might be down this season with the loss of Diego Pavia. Appalachian State, Louisville, Wake Forest, Stanford, Cal, Duke, Syracuse, Florida State, North Carolina. I think the majority of us would say they got a lot of winnable games, and I'm huge on CJ Bailey. And if he takes off like I think he's going to take off, NC State is going to be at a prime position come the end of the season. Now, I'm not saying they're going to do much. They can go 11-1, 12-2 with that schedule, and then get in the playoffs and get barbecued. So I don't think they're amongst the elite teams in the country. But if there's a team that can sneak up on the rest of the nation, I think it's NC State with CJ Bailey.
Yeah, when you run up that schedule, man, that schedule is weak as all get out, man. And they could possibly be one of those teams who has, like you said, a 10-2 freaking record, make it to the ACC championship game, and even if they lose it, mess around and get in like we seen the Alabama team do last year. And it would be a travesty if that happens, man, because we know talent wise, they are not ready to compete in the freaking college football playoffs. But I think when you look at their schedule, they got a chance to have a 10-2 season. I like Bailey at the quarterback position. Of course, they lost Hollywood Smothers to Texas. I feel like this team will probably have some other talent around Bailey to where they can win those games, especially the ones that they have at home. I just feel like I need them to lose more games because I don't want them to muddy the waters when it comes to the college football playoffs, and they have an opportunity to do that.
Let me ask you a question, because I know you mentioned that they could go 10-2, 11-1. Do you think a 10-2 team with that schedule would make the playoffs though, over say a 9-3 Big Ten or SEC team?
I'm hoping not, but man, we seen last year what that kind of stuff, what happens with that. I really felt like Alabama last year when we saw the writing on the wall with that team. We knew that they really were not able to compete with those teams. Of course, they beat Oklahoma, a team that they lost to early or in the season. But I think we all looked at those teams and we looked at how well they were playing at that point in the season. We knew they were no match for those other teams, and we saw what happened with them. I think the committee will have to reward them for going 10-2 in the ACC, even though that schedule is weak as all get out. I'm hoping that they look at the schedule this year based on what happened last year. So you might have a really good point there, SEC, Sean. I'm hoping that they do. But I just don't see how you go and not reward an NC State team who goes 10-2 in the ACC, a Power 4 conference.
I mean, what if they win the ACC though? Then it doesn't matter. And and don't get me wrong, I got Miami winning the ACC, but we've definitely seen stranger things happen. I mean, at this time last year, we were all thinking Clemson was going to have a stranglehold on the ACC, and they totally flopped. So stranger things have happened, man.
Yeah. Let's give a shout out to our sponsor, KT's Good Eats LLC. They will be out at Witten's Farm today with their food truck. They're going to have their specialty today is going to be all of their variety of egg rolls. Of course, they're going to have their slap and mac and all the normal things that they have, but they're really going to be highlighting their egg rolls today, the vegetarian, the Southwestern, the jerk. Get out there and check them out at Witten's Farm, right there on Winchester Pike, right south of Refugee Road. You will not be disappointed. Make sure you make it out to Witten's Farm, to KT's Good Eats LLC. And you can also go into Witten's Farmers Market and get you some pies, cakes, juice, all kinds of stuff that they have for sale as well. So go check them out. At number 6, we got Georgia Tech. I got to get y'all's thoughts on this Georgia Tech team because they've lost their mighty man, the quarterback that they had last year. We're going to start with you post game. What do you think about Georgia Tech?
Man, another one of those teams for me, fellas. Georgia Tech, Florida State, Clemson, NC State, Pitt. We just really don't know. These are teams we really got to see on the field. Key wants to run the ball. I know he lost some offensive line. Know he lost his quarterback, but he did bring in some nice pieces. In particular, Justice Haynes. I think he's going to be a monster as long as he's healthy. You put Justice Haynes in that Georgia Tech rushing attack, I think he's going to be a monster, and he's going to put up some fabulous numbers. in the ACC conference this year. The key to them is going to be on the defensive side of the ball, because I know they got Fernando Mendoza's little brother, Alberto, I believe. I don't think he's as good as Fernando, but I think he could be solid and make some plays with his legs. But again, the key to Georgia Tech is going to be that rushing attack. Can you get off the field on defense on third down? That's going to be the key for Tech. This is one of those teams I'm looking at in the ACC conference, and they can either be terrible or they can be competing for a top 3 or 4 seed in the ACC.
Yeah, that's pretty spot on with Georgia Tech. You lose King, which, when you needed a play, he made it last year. You do bring in Mendoza, which I like. You're right. Is he his brother? Probably not. But we don't know. This kid, again, we just don't know. What are you going to get from this guy? Is he going to be Fernando 2.0, or is he going to be way worse? Or we just don't know what we're going to get. I like the way their schedule lays out for them to help kind of build their identity. I do believe they're going to run the ball like crazy. They're going to have to lean on that while they work on the other aspect of the passing attack. But, their schedule sets up perfectly for them to kind of build into what they want to be before they get into the meat. They get Colorado, then they play Tennessee, which could be a test. Then you got Mercer, Stanford, Duke, and then you get Virginia Tech, Boston College, Pitt, Louisville, and down the list. It gets a little back heavy on their schedule, but this is a team we all actually had ranked exactly the same. We had them in the exact same rankings across our board. So it's another team. We just don't know what you're going to get out of your quarterback. So once we can figure out what you can get, if you've got an outstanding quarterback with that rushing attack, then you might be looking at a team that's trying to spoil the ACC championship game. You could also find a team that's everybody's looking to transfer because they're 2-9 or 2-10. We just don't know.
Yeah, I really like the position that Mendoza is in. This is a guy who felt like, hey, Indiana, I'm the next man up. You decide, no, I'm not the next man up. You bring in Hoover. Now I got to go to Georgia Tech. I got that chip on my shoulder now. I got to go out here and ball out. And I think he's going to be ultra focused. I think being in a system in Indiana who has attention to detail like no other, I think that's going to help him going to Georgia Tech. I think he might be able to bring a different dynamic than King did last year, also still having the running element aspect of it. I think this Georgia Tech team defensively, they lost their defensive coordinator who went back to Texas to coach defensive backs. If they can shore up their defense, I think Georgia Tech has always been a program who always has players out there that's ready to overachieve. I think they're going to finish right around this spot at the end of the season, and they're going to be an interesting team to watch. And they may be one of those teams who we find at the end of the season that's freaking 11-2 in the same kind of situation that we just talked about NC State. So hopefully they could continue to be one of those competitive teams and finish strong in the ACC. At number 5, we're bringing in Virginia Tech. The first year under James Franklin, he got a lot of transfers in from over there at Penn State. What's your thoughts on Virginia Tech? We're going to start with you, SEC Sean. What's your thoughts on this Virginia Tech team?
I like the hire of Franklin. You're bringing in, let's just call it what it is, Big Ten recruits to the ACC. You got your quarterback there. I think that Virginia Tech is going to be maybe not what Virginia Tech was back in the days, but they're on their way there. they're getting money pumped in from, I'm sure Metallica's pumping money in with their Enter Sandman walkout and everything they do over there. So I like what Franklin's doing. I think they're going to be on that next tier right now for this year. I expect them, they're obviously going to be a lot better than they were last year, but I just don't think they're in that upper echelon tier yet. I think you need another year or so for Franklin to install his complete system, get his players in there through the portal and recruiting, and he's got to build a relationship with the coaches over there, the high school level coaches that want to send their kids to him. So that I have Virginia Tech just on the outside looking in this year, but I expect them to be really, really good.
Yeah, another ACC team, man, is right smack in the middle of the conference that, could go either way, either or. They can be right at the top or they can sink to the bottom. I, too, love the hire of James Franklin. I think he's going to bring a mentality to that defense and to that culture, to the program. I think he was a great pick for Vatech this upcoming season and beyond. But I think when I look at Vatech, a lot's going to come down to their quarterback play and their pass rush. Can they get off the field on third down? Do they have those elite pass rushers? Because the guys they got don't bring much production to the table. But I think Virginia Tech is one of those teams that's going to start slow, and then as the season progresses, they'll get better and better, and they'll knock off a few teams. 5, I think that's pretty good for them. Anywhere from 5 to 7 for Vatech is cool for me.
Yeah. Thanks, Chris Gahn, 9963 for joining us. Continue to watch because we're going to be talking about your Miami Hurricanes here in a little bit, and we would love to get some more of your input. So make sure that you don't go anywhere. Stay with us until we get to Miami because we got them definitely on the docket to talk about. I'm telling you right now, Virginia Tech and James Franklin, listen, bro, you got to turn that program around, and you got to do it right now because those of us who are fans of college football, we already got a stigma in our head about you. You cannot win the big games. You're going to get an opportunity to win some big games in this ACC conference. If you can't do it, the stigma will continue. I feel like James Franklin has an opportunity here to reinvent himself and become a better coach than what he was at Penn State. He's in a conference that is not as tough as the Big Ten, but still has some really, really good quality teams in it. He has to make sure that he get this thing turned around. He got to finish 5 or better, in my opinion, in this conference. Otherwise, people are just going to say James Franklin is going to do what James Franklin is going to do, and that's have a good team but never win the big game. Come on, James Franklin, turn that thing around.
One thing that kind of makes me look here is if you look at their schedule, you mentioned about James Franklin not winning the big games, and that's a valid point. This is a thing where Clemson could start. Virginia Tech. They could start 7-0 and have all the hype in the world behind them, and then drop 3 games at the end of their schedule where they go Clemson, SMU, Miami in 3 of the last 5. And they're at SMU, they're at Clemson and at SMU, and then at Miami. They're on the road for all 3 of those. So this could be a thing where it's all, we're feeling great about ourselves. Look at us. Wait a minute, what happened? That's what you're looking at.
Well, I'm definitely going to have a question for the both of you when we get to that point in the season. Can they go 3-0? Can they go 2-1 in those 3 games? But I'm going to save it for when we get to that part of the season. Let's move on to who we got at number 4. And Frank Potter, thank you for joining us, Frank Potter of 5936. He says Stevens will be a top pass rusher for Virginia Tech. We're definitely going to be looking at him and then see what he do, because we're really high on edge rushers and defensive ends in college football this year. We think that position is loaded across college football, much like it is all the time. But this year, we got some really, really dynamic guys that we're going to be keeping our eye on. So we're definitely going to be looking out for Stevens. At number 4, we got Clemson, a team that we thought would probably be dominating the ACC for infinitum if we went back to a couple of years ago. But they haven't fared so well last year and the year before. Even though they made it to the college football playoffs, they really just got there by happenstance, really. What's your thoughts on Clemson and what they're going to do this year? Let's start with you post-game.
Yeah, again, another one of those teams that could be amongst the elite teams in the ACC or at the bottom of the barrel. I think Dabo Swinney did right by reaching out to his old offensive coordinator and bringing him back. I think that's going to do wonders for that team. But the key to Clemson, to me, on offense is going to be Chris Vezina and his development, and if he's able to lead that team, because he has some weapons in Wesco and TJ Moore. Those wide receivers I like a lot, man. And if he can get those guys the ball, Clemson can be right there. They got to fix that defense, man. That defense, too many bad teams torched them last year. So, and with all the NFL talent that they had on that team, they had some high draft picks on the defensive side of the ball this past NFL draft. So it'll be interesting to see how that defense plays, but Vezina has to be the dude. He's been Cade Klubnik's backup the last 3 years, and he has a plethora of receivers to get the ball to. So, and they definitely got to mix in that run for sure. So Clemson is one of the more interesting teams in the ACC. They can be 1, 2, 3, or 18.
Yeah, if Clemson finishes 18 in the ACC, we're going to have to figure out something with Clemson, with Dabo. We may just need to implode the whole school at that point. Clemson, man. I think, honestly, Clemson was better than they looked last year. I think the biggest problem with Clemson, and I hate to say it because the kid's from Texas, was Cade Klubnik. I think the hype of Cade Klubnik got between his ears. I honestly think he fed into the preseason Heisman talk and all this stuff. And I think that affected his play. You saw him play better at the end of the season. So I think he had to overcome some of that outside noise, much like we saw last year with Nussmeier and Manning. But I don't know, man. Clemson, you feel like Clemson's good. I can't get behind Clemson, though. I can't stand Dabo Swinney. I cannot stand the whininess from a head coach at what has been over the past decade one of the premier programs to play for. I can't stand the crying, woe is me. I can't handle it. I think Clemson's going to have to rely on their defense at the beginning of this season, which is supposed to be a pretty good defense if you look at it on paper. If they play up to their level of what we think until the offense. I'm not a big Christopher Vezina fan. I'm just not. So I think the offense is going to have a little struggle. Got some major. If he can just get the ball to the wide receivers, they can be fine. But I don't have a lot of faith in him. I'm just not a quarterback I'm high on in this league. He's mid-tier to below mid-tier in ACC quarterbacks in my mind.
Yeah, for me, Clemson, they're really going to have to capitalize on the talent that they have. You can't have that much talent on your football team and you don't play to the level in which that talent that you have. And I think that Dabo Swinney, he has to turn the page. The college football landscape has changed. You either got to buy in or go ahead and go be a commentator or something like that and entertain us that way. I feel like you can't have this kind of talent. You can't be in the state of South Carolina where there's a lot of talent in that state, along with the surrounding states around you, and you not be able to get the most out of those guys. I feel like this Clemson team, like y'all said, can either be in the top four, even at the top, or either be way down by 15, 16, 17, because it seems like they just are not being prepared to play in a manner in which the landscape of college football is going. And hopefully they get a new quarterback in there. We thought Cade Klubnik was going to be the man this past season. He didn't fare so well. I know he had some injuries at the wide receiver position, but I think Clemson, you got to capitalize on the talent that you have and be a much better team than you were. And it all starts with you, Dabo Swinney. You got to get those guys going in the right direction. At number 3, we got Louisville. And for this third spot and that second spot, it was really, really close. But at 3, we got Louisville. What's your thoughts on this Louisville team? We're going to start with you, SEC Sean, and this Braun brother coach team. How do you feel about Louisville? And can Louisville actually be one of the teams that's going to play in this ACC championship game?
Yeah, can they? For sure. I think we've kind of reached the top-heavy part of the ACC right now. I like the quarterback, Lincoln Keenholz, I believe, is his name. You know, their running back, Isaac Brown, we all know is going to be electric. The defense, it should be really good. This is just this is an easy team for me to see competing and or winning the ACC. And it's one of those teams that if they make it into the college football playoff, you might want to be leery if you've got them in the first round, because it's just one of those teams that they have the players at the key positions they need on both sides of the ball to make life really, really difficult for people. I haven't pulled their schedule up yet, but I think Louisville, I mean, it's, one of the top 3 teams in the ACC in my mind, with anybody can win this conference. So I'd have to look at their schedule to see when they play who and who do they miss. I think that's the bigger question, is do they miss a SMU and a Miami? Do they get SMU and Miami? So I need to look at that and see, and I'll work on that while Postgame gives his thoughts. I just really like this Louisville team.
Yes, indeed. I like this Louisville team as well. They start the season off in Nashville, Tennessee with Mississippi, then Villanova, SMU, Wake Forest, NC State, Florida State, Syracuse, Stanford, Georgia Tech, North Carolina, Pitt, and then they end the season at Kentucky. I expect Kentucky to be a better team. But, I mean, I've always liked the Braun brothers, man, and I think they really know football, and I think they've been great for Louisville in their playing days and now in their coaching careers. It all starts with Isaac Brown being that dude at the running back position, being able to make plays in the pass and running the ball. I think his receptions are going to go up this season. Lincoln Keenholz is a talent. We all know he pushed Julian Sayin for the starting spot at Ohio State. So, I mean, and then Brady Foley, man, the big tight end out of the transfer portal from, I think, Tulsa. He's going to be a monster, man. And they had to go to the portal and get some guys for the offensive line. It's going to be interesting to see if they can gel really quickly, or is that a process throughout the season? If they can gel quick, man, I think Louisville has a really good chance to win the ACC conference this year. I'm high on them. We all know about those edge rushers Those two guys coming off the edge are going to be trouble for any team in the nation. So I think when you have those type of edge rushers, that can put your defense in a really good position to get off the field, get turnovers, get sacks, get interceptions, and get that high power offense another crack at scoring.
You know something about this Louisville team, man? They've been right there in the thick of things the last 2 or 3 seasons with an opportunity to make it to the ACC championship game, and they haven't gotten there. They really need to turn the corner this year. They need to make it to the ACC championship game and give themselves the opportunity to make it into the college football playoffs. I really feel like this team could actually be one of the best 12 teams in the country if they can put it all together. I feel like with Lincoln Keyholes at quarterback, they have a really good piece right there, a guy who's a dual threat quarterback. And we know how important having a dual threat quarterback is when it comes to winning games down the stretch. And then they got wide receivers that they can get the ball to. They got Isaac Brown, who I think is going to be one of the best running backs in the country, in the midst of a ton of really, really good running backs. And I think defensively, they got some good edge rushers. If they can just put it all together and keep teams from scoring at will, they can be one of those teams at the end of the day in the ACC championship, facing one of these top teams that we have in this conference, in our rankings. But they got to put it together. They got to turn the corner. Otherwise, they'll just be another really good Louisville team who didn't get it done. At number 2, we got SMU. We're going to start with you post game. They got a veteran quarterback. They're going to be really scary. They always play to a high level. What's your thoughts on SMU?
I like SMU. I would not be surprised if they won the ACC. That's how much I think of Rhett Lashley and that offense, the thing he brings to the table for SMU. Having Kevin Jennings, I think Kevin Jennings is going to have the type of year where he says, watch this. That's where I think, because he had a great year in 24. 25, he had a good year, but could have been better. I think this season he's going to have a monster year statistically for SMU, and I think they can beat any team on their schedule, anybody. I would not be surprised if Miami and SMU's the ACC title game. A lot of good teams, including Louisville, who I like to be in that game, but we'll see what happens. But for my money, Kevin Jennings is going to be a dude this year. And I can't wait to see him operate that Rhett Lashley offense. I think this will be, year 3 for Kevin Jennings. They got some weapons on the outside. They bring back some offensive linemen. The running game is going to be crucial. I like SMU. Can the defense hold up? That remains to be seen.
That's the key right there, that last phrase. Can the defense hold up? It was an opportunistic defense last year. They were more bend, don't break. They would let you drive the field, and then they would do something and make a play. And I kind of like to see more consistency. I think if their defense can get some more, say, 3 and outs, or force some more turnovers, I think that offense is going to be electric under Kevin Jennings, who, I think it's his 3rd year. It may be his 9th year. I'm not real sure how long he's been at SMU. He might have been there when they got the death penalty. I don't know. That dude's been there forever. And I love the kid from down there, right there in Dallas, Texas, as a recruit. I mentioned it before. I love Lashley recruiting the Dallas-Fort Worth area, keeping those kids home. I think that's super important for SMU. Fellas, look at SMU's schedule. And I'm going to call it right now. Here's my bold take for SMU. The winner in week 3 with SMU and Louisville will be in the ACC championship game. They go Florida State to open the season. UC Davis, Louisville, Missouri State. Then they go Boston College, Virginia, California, Syracuse, Virginia Tech, Wake Forest. They do have Notre Dame. And then Stanford. This is an easy 11-1, 10-2 team. The two losses could be Louisville and Notre Dame. I'm pretty sure they're going to be favored pretty handily in every other game they play. Can SMU beat Louisville? Yeah, for sure. Can SMU beat Notre Dame? Never know. I would expect by that point of the season, that's when Notre Dame's playing their best ball normally. We all know that. So that's going to be really tough. Plus, it's in South Bend. So traveling up there's a little different. But this is an easy 10-2 team if you give them two losses. But I think SMU is dynamic. I think they're going to be in the ACC championship game. I don't see any other way. Like I said, it's going to come down to that Louisville game, first game of the season, our third game.
Those are two really good takes by you both. And after you went through that schedule, I'm sitting there thinking to myself, it's almost, if I was a betting man, I would say SMU is going to be in the daggone ACC championship game, regardless if they lose to Louisville or not, because that's the only loss that I see in conference on that schedule for them, which means that they're only going to have one loss on that schedule, and then they'll probably be in that game. I really like this SMU team. I like what they've been able to do since coming to the ACC. I think that was a really smart move for them because I think they were ready to go up a notch, and they decided to go to the ACC to go up that notch. And they've been really, really good in this conference 2 years in a row. I feel like this SMU team has an opportunity to win this conference. And this might be the year that they do it. When you got a Jennings who has been the quarterback for as long as he has at that school, he's ready to put that team on his back and take that thing to the promised land. Hopefully he can do it this year. But I think the team that we got at number one, I feel like nobody's going to be able to touch them. And that's the Miami Hurricanes. Let's start with you, SEC Sean, on this one. We got the Miami Hurricanes in our preseason rankings in the ACC at number one. Do they have any flaws, y'all?
Real quick, I want to jump back real quick to SMU because y'all mentioned this, but they've been in the ACC for 2 years and they're 14-2.
Yeah, can I say this real quick? Can I say this real quick? I think that when you talk about SMU, I think Kevin Jennings, he has to get back to his legs. He has to get back to rushing the ball and being a threat with his legs, because you've seen his production, his rushing totals kind of go down or regress last year as opposed to 24. So if Kevin Jennings is able to run the ball like he did in 24, I think he's a dark horse Heisman candidate.
Yeah, I'll say this to comp that right there. Kevin Jennings reminded me, I see a lot of similarities with him and Marcel Reed. Both tried to be more pocket passers last year and got away from what makes them who they are with their legs. Both of them sat in the pocket, where there's numerous times I was sitting there watching and I was like, even SMU, and I was like, dude, run. You can get 30 yards. The defense has got their back turned. So really good point. He does need to get back to his athletic side, I think.
Yeah. So post game.
Does Miami have any?
We start with, who did I say first?
I don't think it really matters. I think we're all going to have the same take on this team.
Yeah. Well, let post game go first then.
Yep.
I mean, they got to be the heavy favorite coming in to win the ACC conference. Rob, you asked, do they have any weaknesses? I don't know if they have a weakness along the offensive line, but they do have to replace some really talented guys. You think about what made that team go last year. It was the offensive line, and it was those two monster pass rushers in Mesidor and Bain who went to the NFL. Now, I mean, They did get some transfers at defensive end. I think they'll still be able to get after the quarterback, but the common denominator for Miami is that they got Jason Taylor coaching up those defensive linemen. So they got some interior guys like Justin Scott, who I think are going to pop this season. So I don't think they're going to be the same offensive line, defensive line type team like they were last year, but they become a better quarterback wide receiver team. So could that make up the difference? Where they're strong last year, I think they'll be solid, but the improvement for me will be at the quarterback position and at the wide receiver position, because you really got two number ones at wide receiver, and Barcade and Malachi Tony. So both of those guys, they're both going to eat, and each week they'll have the matchup advantage. So we'll definitely see how that plays out. But Miami, for my money, is the best team in the ACC and my favorite to win.
Yeah. Does Miami have weaknesses? Yeah, they do. Just not sure where they are right now. Probably offensive line. I want to see Miami's schedule. Can you pull that up real fast post game? Do you have the ability? For some reason, I can't get to Miami's right now. Quarterback is an upgrade. I think Carson Beck held him down a little bit last year. I really do. Offensive line is going to be a question. To be honest, the biggest question I have, and I hate to say it because I think he's good, is Cristobal. He always has that, I don't know of a better way to put it, but like lapse in brain mentality in one or two games throughout the year that they're going to have no business to lose, and they're going to lose. That's a weakness. Now, a lot of times, sometimes their talent overrides that. Sometimes it doesn't. But running back is going to be really good with the return. Offensive line has to gel. They've got a receiver. They're fine. They're good at receiver and quarterback. Defense.
I got the schedule. So they start this season, and this is on paper. I got to emphasize on paper. But this is one of the easiest schedules in the nation on paper to begin the season. They have Stanford, Wake Forest, Clemson, or excuse me, let me get the order intact. Stanford, Florida A&M, Wake Forest, Central Michigan, Clemson, Florida State, Pittsburgh, North Carolina, Notre Dame, Duke, for Vatech, and then Boston College.
That's what I thought. They dodge both other contenders in our mind. SMU and Louisville, they dodge them both. They do have Notre Dame on the schedule. But this is, I mean, that's a schedule that's really kind of comparable with what SMU we just ran through based on what we're looking at on paper. These teams could be better than what we're projecting. So it could be a tougher schedule, but they're going to have that defense kind of rebuilt. I do have total faith in Taylor to get that D-line playing the way they need to. But, man, you lose two bookends like that on the defensive ends, and that's not easy to replace at all times. So we're going to see. Miami is the favorite in the ACC. I think we all agree upon that. I think most people across the nation would agree upon that. But by no means do I think they're just going to cakewalk to the ACC title. I think SMU and Louisville would have something to say about it, and maybe somebody else. We saw Miami last year. We thought they were going to, after they beat Notre Dame, everybody had them, the ACC champs. They didn't even make the game. So, crazy things happen in this sport. So we're going to have to let it play out. But right now, I've got Miami, SMU in the ACC title game.
Yeah, I think this Miami team is hands down the best team in this conference. I feel like They should go undefeated in conference play. And if they do have any blemish on their record, it's going to be to a Notre Dame team who I feel like is probably one of the best teams in the country, definitely top three. Post game dropped his video yesterday on them being the number one defense in the country, and you cannot argue that. You can try to, but man, the weapons that they got on that defense is unbelievable. I feel like this Miami team is the best team in the ACC, and they should make it to the ACC championship game and win it. Now, our man Chris Gons, 9963, he wants to know, would you be shocked if they did not win the ACC championship game?
I would not. I wouldn't be shocked. But, I mean, if I had to bet some money on who was going to win, I would put some money on Miami. But I wouldn't be shocked if it was SMU or Louisville. They're very talented. And, you know, some of those ACC games can be tricky. You've seen Miami play Louisville on a Friday night and take a L last season.
No, I wouldn't be shocked. I mean, I think Miami is, like I said, the clear favorite, but I wouldn't put any money on it. There's no way. Miami's, I don't know. I think Miami has everything in place. Of course, we're doing this preseason. Let's not forget, you know, injuries. They happen in college football, all across any level of football. So one wrong mistake. I mean, let's be realistic. Who's Mensa's backup? If he goes down, who's his backup? If he goes down in the Notre Dame game, or even before then, and they drop a game or two, you know, so everything can happen. But I would be shocked if Miami, based on their schedule, since Notre Dame is not a conference game, was not in the ACC championship game. I think Miami has got the clear path, and then I think it's coming down between SMU and Louisville. I think that's the other competitor in that game.
Yeah, I really do believe that I would be shocked. I mean, barring injuries, if Miami didn't win the whole ACC, man. The team that they have, and they got two really good opponents that they could possibly face in that game in Louisville and SMU, and I think it will be a really, really good game, especially since Miami, if they make it, they don't play either one of those teams in the regular season. I really don't like to see championship games where two teams meet up again for a second time. I want it to be two teams that they haven't played each other that season, and I hope that we get that this year. I would be shocked if Miami didn't win the ACC this year. I feel like top to bottom, they got more talent than everybody else, and I feel like they understand and they know that they could lean on their run game, even though they lost some prominent linemen to the NFL. I think with Mark Fletcher back there, they know they can run that football, man. And I really like him at the running back position. And I think if Mensa is having one of those days, they could lean on their running game and their defense to pull out victories for them. So I would be shocked, definitely for sure. We appreciate. Y'all got anything else y'all want to add before we wrap up?
One question. Give me, how many teams from the ACC make the playoff?
One. I'm hoping, because I need 4 from the SEC.
That is extremely difficult. That's extremely difficult. I'm gonna say 1 in a possible.
Yeah, I'm leaning 2. With SMU's schedule, Louisville's schedule, Miami's schedule, I think you're probably going to have either 2 undefeated teams playing, especially since they don't play each other except Miami. You're going to either have a 1-loss SMU, a 1-loss Louisville, I believe, or 2 undefeated Miami and SMU, undefeated Miami and Louisville. I think that they could potentially get 3 in.
It's possible. It's possible. Especially if the Big Ten and the SEC, they end up eating on each other. It's possible.
That's the problem. Plus, I only think you're getting one from the Big 12, but I think the SEC and the Big 10 kind of cannibalize each other enough to where you put one of them in.
This is exactly why they need to get rid of the group of 5 teams, unless they get in that large bid. But other than that, no group of 5 teams.
This playoff needs to be Power 4 only. It just does.
I wouldn't be opposed to an at-large bid team from the group of 5. But other than that, man, they need to keep it moving.
Yeah, you finish in the top 12, you deserve to be in the college football playoff.
Yeah, that I do agree with, but it's going to take you'd have to be undefeated. Boise State pretty much would have to be undefeated. James Madison and ranked in the top 12, and I just think that's going to be hard. But I wouldn't be opposed to an at-large. But the automatic qualifier for the group of 5, I don't like that.
Oh, what happened right there?
I don't know.
Oh, man. I don't know what happened right there. Maybe I hit something. He said Notre Dame has SMU tickets on sale today for $50. What?
Wow,
man! I might come to that game. I got family in Elkhart. I might come to that game.
The price is right. Come on down.
Yeah,
that's right. I mean, where are those tickets at?
Hey, as long as I'm in the building, it don't matter for $50.
It's not really
those tickets. I mean, go ahead.
As far as seating, it's not really a bad seat in the stadium. The way
but for $50, am I going to be stuck in the bathroom in one of them stalls trying to watch it on a little TV monitor or something? What was going on for $50? I don't remember the last time I saw a $50 football ticket.
No, it's really, I'm telling you, it's really not a bad seat in the stadium.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know how to fix the screen back to where it was in midstream. So we're going to go ahead and wrap it up. Thank you, everyone, for joining in and tuning in with us. Catch us again tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. And we're going to do the same thing, but only we're going to do the SEC conference. We appreciate you tuning in. And we love the fact that you have all been supporting us so much. Continue to do that. We'll see you again tomorrow at 9 a.m. You guys enjoy the rest of your day. Have a good one. Stay healthy. Stay strong. Peace.
Peace.